Welcome to step 3 of Bootcamp 2025. We're making progress, right? We're chugging right along. So at this point, you should have completed step 1, interviewing and finding your story angle. Step 2, which was writing the actual story and getting your headline and subhead for that whole storytelling package. And now we're on step 3, which is mods. Okay, mods or alternative coverage. And really, you're probably going to hear different people call these different things: mods, alt copies, sidebars, alternative coverage, the Susan Massey side salad. There's all kinds of different names for them, but really it's smaller, shorter packages of information that still tell a story, but in a shorter and usually more visual way.
Okay, well, it's now debrief time. And this section might take a little bit longer because you're going to have to go gather your photos. So what we really want you to get out of this is the whole process of what goes into a good caption right from the get-go. This may take, again, an expanded amount of time. And another thing to do is, if you do have some good photos, share them with the whole class. I think key to this debrief section, again, is to have the whole class together buzzing about what they found, how it went, where the problems were, how they solved them. You're going to be way ahead of the game. We love that.
And there's a ton of different types and styles to these, a ton of different mod formats. There's Q&As, there's by the numbers, there's statistics and surveys, there's little photo packages.
And my little bit of advice is, don't settle on question and answer. Don't settle on Q&A.
Challenge yourselves.
Get some that are more interesting, and that's going to drive your story forward. It's a way to tell more about your subject than just in words.
Yes. So let's dive into what Jim and I came up with and what our process was like during our interview. So one of the things when I'm trying to come up with a mod for a spread, I knew I had this story angle of kind of these bigger picture, more emotional things of Jim's unfinished business and his race and wanting to finish this one, and the relationships that he builds throughout the way. And so we wanted to kind of like lighten it up. What are some other things about, there's so much we could talk about here with cycling. So I started by going back and looking over the interview notes and the times that we talked about this specific subject of this ride that he was on, to see if there was anything that maybe little nuggets of information that's like, maybe that might be a good mod. And at one point he was talking about his kit, your bibs were too tight, right? And you said it was causing neck pain. And then you said you didn't have as much stuff in your pockets and stuff the next day, and it was a lot better. And in my head, I immediately went what are you carrying in your pockets on a 70-mile bike ride? I remember thinking that and thinking, okay, that might be a good idea. What does Jim's kit look like? What equipment does he have? What does he have to have on his person that he cannot ride without? He has to have this on him when he's riding, and he keeps this in his pockets. Could be a great mod idea. And then I reached out to Jim and asked him, are there other things, maybe we could talk about the parts of your bike, or are there cycling terms that maybe would be interesting for people to know? And then Jim was posting every day on Facebook, and Jim posted all the things he was eating. Every day there were pictures. A lot of them were ice cream and pie. You ate well on this trip. That's the one thing I learned. Yeah. There's a lot of good food. And that was the other thing that popped in my head. Wait a second. That feels like a mod. What do you eat all the time while you're riding and camping and living out of an RV for a week? Are you swinging past a McDonald's on this ride, or where do you get this food, and what are you eating?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So out of those, we came up with 2 mod ideas. One was the food, what he ate, and it wasn't everything, but we just got a few things. We chose the high points. Yep. Jim's favorites, especially the peach ice cream. Was in there to create a mod around some of the things that Jim ate kind of consistently over the course of the 7 days of his ride. And then we did another one on terms, some bike terms, things, his cycling terms, equipment terms. But that was interesting to learn about. And so we ended up pulling 2 little packages of information for our spread about Jim that had to do with his cycling, but that wasn't part of the main story. And that's what mods really are. They're other little interesting pieces of information that go with the overall subject of the spread, but are not necessarily part of that main story. They're additional alternative forms of coverage. So it goes with the main topic, but it's not necessarily a spin-off of the story itself. And there are extra visual entry points on your spread. So there are ways to hook a reader in because they're short. You might have a long story. A lot of people aren't going to dive right into that long story, but they will jump into these more designed short packages of information. So have fun brainstorming some additional mod ideas about your partner for your spread and what you want to do. What other pieces do you think would be interesting or fun to share? And also think about two things. Think of visually, what could I do with this? Is this something that I could package and design a little bit more visually that would be interesting to look at? And two, think about your theme. So right now, I know we're doing this as practice as a part of Bootcamp, but mods can be great themey things. So they can be a great opportunity for you to really reinforce your theme message through your mod. So is there anything that came out of your interview with your partner that might be a way that you could also reinforce your theme phrase and your verbal theme story? These are the fun opportunities. So you might have to go back and re-interview. You might have to get more information from your partner to complete your mod ideas. But we want to challenge you to find at least 2 mod ideas that you can include on your spread. And then what you should have done at the end of step 3 is get all the content, quotes, stats, data, and images you might need to put that mod together. So we're going to talk more about design and layout later, but we want you to gather everything you need so that you can assemble that mod when we get to the design portion. So that's your challenge for today. Go out there and talk, get your information, your stats, your quotes, have an idea for how you want to visually represent it, maybe even sketch a little bit so that you have an idea of what you want that to look like on your spread, and get your 2 mod ideas down pat and ready to go. That's your challenge. Now it's your turn. Go out and get started.